Today you'll be taking a look at various forms of line. This is going to be another one of those situations where you're just going to be looking at artwork for a while. We're going to start with a list. These are suggestions of types of lines that can exist. They're opposing pairs of words, and the examples that you're going to be looking at today are going to show these kinds of lines and how they can work together or in isolation. So we have straight versus curved, even versus fluctuating, sharp versus blurred, continuous versus broken, imaginary or implied versus real, narrow versus wide, one-directional or winding, long and short, mechanical or geometric versus organic, parallel versus oblique or diagonal. We're going to be taking a look at the work of a single artist. I think in this way, you'll be able to see that even an artist with a single style can use such a wide variety of lines to achieve very different effects within their work. The artist whose work you're going to be looking at has a very long history as an educator, and in fact, next semester in Design 2, I am pretty sure that you're going to be using his book, The Interaction of Color, as the basis of your entire class. He's a very prolific artist, associated pretty heavily with mid-century modern design, and it's just banging work, really. It's just really great stuff. So I hope you enjoy. We're looking at Josef Albers. All right, I hope that was pretty informative. I know it's a pretty short one, and you might appreciate that, but really there's a lot. I mean, there's an infinite number of things that you can do with just this proto element of the line. So you really need to be thinking about that when you're making your designs. I mean, this is the building block of the vocabulary that you're using to communicate in this visual language, um, and all the different inflections and flavors that you can give it is going to bring a lot to your designs. And all the designs so far, we've been limiting the expressive quality of the line, as a deliberate attempt, as a deliberate choice. Creativity comes from from having a set of parameters to work in, a set of delimitations to what you're doing is really important. If you set out and you have no format to start with, no canvas to work on, no rules to apply to anything, not that any of these rules are set in stone and can't be broken in certain ways, but you have to learn the reasons that the rules work or the principles operate in the ways that they do before you can go about bending those principles and rules. But without a specific set of delimitations, creativity just creates chaos. Or you get interested in just something new for the sake of being new. This is novelty. It's not timeless, and it won't have the same sort of lasting impact. So it's important that we start to really consider what exactly our lines are doing in our designs. I had a professor at the New York Studio School, Ofra Shemesh. She would get up in your face and poke you in the chest and say, you know, you live and die on the line. The line is all that you have. As an artist, the line is like a breath. If it takes more than one breath to lay the pencil down, travel, and lift from that point, then you're playing a game. You're not drawing. And this isn't a drawing class, it's a design class, but as I pointed out in the first lecture, in some languages, those things are the exact same. So use your line and think about how it's operating and why it's working the way it is. The line is like an instrument, and how you play one note or one type of line against another note or another type of line in relation to one another is how chords and melodies are created visually. You've seen some of the work in the slideshow were album covers. Albers did a lot of jazz album covers. You know, so this idea of design and how it works in a relational way. I know I use a lot of examples of painters. That's because that's what I'm trained in and it's what I'm most familiar with. But I'm trying to find painters whose work is readable outside of that context of just painting. The design in their work, and in Albers specifically, is the exact same kind of design that he would use to create an album cover. He came from a school in Germany called the Bauhaus, which you should look up and research. It was a design school, and it was very much about form and functionality being one thing. Or in fact, that form should come above functionality. So anyway, let's look at your homework. Read the form chapter in Art and Visual Perception by Rudolf Arnheim, and complete studio problem number 6. Using variable line weights, so lines that are made quick or slow, or fat lines and skinny lines. The line should have some sort of readable difference in weight. In a square format, create a design with unity of shape and variety of position. Remember that the line can be a shape in and of itself, or the line can be used to create shapes, to delineate the borders of the shapes. But a line doesn't necessarily have to create a complete circuit around the outside of a known shape, like a square or a triangle or a hexagon, so on, in order for it to have its own shape. Give me 10 thumbnails and 10 variations, along with your final mounted design. If you have any questions, send me an email.